So welcome to today's 2020 Connector launch and Connector 201 training. This is Salen O'Neill of Young Invincibles. Thank you all for coming. Quick peek at today's agenda. We're going to talk about our goals on the Connector for 2020. We're going to look at what's new. We're going to do a sneak preview and look at some of the changes we've made, as well as a Connector 201 training. That will cover some of the more advanced features we've added over the past couple years and sort of how they might be different this year to make your lives just a little easier. So, big picture here, what were our goals? What was YI's motivation for this year, and how did we make decisions about where and how to put our resources when it came to the connector? For many of you all who've been at this for a while, you will realize that the connector has recently turned 7 years old. It's been a long and exciting run. And at this point, our focus is really on supporting what works. And that's been our philosophy here at YI for a couple years. So after a year of control here at YI in 2018, we rebuilt the connector to make it more sustainable and to make sure that the connector ran fast and reliably for everyone across the nation. Last year, our focus was on making the connector more portable. We did things like integrating calendars with your personal calendar and added some more features to sort of really enhance the overall experience and maybe make this a more well-rounded project. And this year, our focus has been on supporting COVID-19 efforts, as well as making some very necessary infrastructure investments with the goals of making 2020 our best year yet. So with that, let's look at some of the things that we've been working on this year. The first thing to realize, and I think the biggest thing from our end, is we are bringing back a Spanish language widget. Instructions will be coming out on Friday when we go live and everything is finalized. But as you can see here, a little preview. We will be rolling back out a Spanish language widget that you can embed on your site. You can also use ours. Again, information on this will be coming. But our big thought was there are a lot of consumers who have been extremely hard to reach and who, especially in a COVID-19 era where a lot of traditional outreach isn't going to work, people are going to be having to work digitally to reach consumers. And so we thought it was important for equity's sake and to really enhance this open enrollment to reinvest and bring back our Spanish language widget. We also made a bunch of improvements to our locations and schedules pages. The connector is going to be clear for users when a location or a sister is selected. We've had a number of people had issues this year trying to set up schedules, trying to enter locations and making sure that it was assigned to the proper assister or location or organization. And we've brought back some old styling that unfortunately we weren't able to do in years past, but we think is going to be a big boost this year. Another thing, we've had a couple of reports this year on the share with organization feature at the bottom of each location page having some issues. And so we went in and re-optimized that and fixed it to allow sharing of locations across to an entire separate organization. This will be very useful for places that are doing central call centers, that are trying to put up one central place to manage all of their virtual or remote locations. And we think in the years to come will be really great for collaboration. We've also made it clear for users to see how to add one-off appointments, which should be really exciting as well. The next thing we did, we worked on better support for remote appointments. So as many of you remember, one of our big focuses earlier this year was adding support for remote enrollment better. We set up default locations across the country so that no matter how far away a consumer may be from help, that there was a default listing that had the ability to either do web or phone based enrollment, or even just a hotline to call to get more information and to remotely. We also realized that that wasn't sufficient. There were some cases where locations that were set as the default, as you can see here on the right, were showing up twice. First as the default, and second because it was in the search radius. We went ahead and fixed that and streamlined that, as we've been saying is going to be a priority of ours, going back to the beginning of this COVID-19 period. We also went in and did some just language cleanup about our reminders that get sent out via email and text message. The core of these messages is the same. We didn't really fidget that much with it, but we thought it would be important to remove the language about in person or being at a physical location and make it more general, because in COVID-19, we've realized that a lot of places are not offering in-person assistance, and we want to make sure that people know that and understand that and that it's clear. We've also continued to update default locations. You all have been great about letting us know as your situations may change, as things become more available or different available, or you expand your service areas or change service areas. We've been continuing to update these listings and making sure that we all continue to support this crucial new feature in these uncertain times. We also did a lot more than just that. In reports, in the appointment detail report, the source column will now actually give information on whether this was coming from a customized or branded widget. So if you have the widget embedded on your website, you will now have a better understanding of whether appointments are coming from that direction, whether coming from your website and your outreach or your partner's outreach, or if they are coming from national, if they're coming from YI, if they're using our widget.getcoveredamerica.org. As we talked about, we improved the share with organization feature. We've been focusing generically on better feedback for users from a design standpoint, making it clear what things are doing and when things are active and usable. We've done some stuff to better highlight page navigation so that when consumers are or when users, I should say, are booking appointments, for instance, from a calendar view, that they'll be brought back to the calendar and not to the appointment page. So just a little better and more intuitive experience. We also did some just, under the hood, less sexy, but still vitally important work. Make sure that all third-party technologies and libraries that the connector is based on are fully up to date. Things like styling, things like interactivity, things like our calendar, just really making sure that all of our technical standards are up to date. You can think of this as really a fine tune-up, if you will. Going in there, giving a tire change, rebalancing everything, cleaning the oil filter, really all the unsexy maintenance that makes the engine of the connector really succeed. Last, but certainly not least, in addition to making adjustments to the email and text messages to reflect COVID-19, we also did some work with the intent of just better capturing sentiment that assisters had shared. We had a number of reports of people who thought that we could be a little cleaner, a little better, a little more deliberate in some of the language we were using about what to bring, about information about health insurance that consumers may or may not have available to them, and those types of things, so that people got clearer and more concise messaging and hopefully are better prepared for appointments this year. Again, our focus has been this year on keeping it simple, on reinvesting in the connector and reinvesting in what works, and trying to create a better experience for all of our users. So with I am going to do a live look here at the new connector that you all will be seeing in a very short time. So this is the new connector. This is what you all will be seeing starting Friday evening and going forward. We've obviously, the biggest change is that we've done a lot of visual updates. We've brought the connector's design and style in line with YI's brand, in line with sort of modern web development standards. just offering a cleaner and smoother experience for everyone. The key thing to note, though, if you look at it, and I can even pull up here the real connector, is that everything is still organized the same way. The same features are in the same places and do the same things. These changes are largely cosmetic, but really important to making sure that it's just a better experience for everyone around. So I want to go through and look at a couple of the things that I'm excited about, with the intent of hopefully getting you all excited here in the next couple of minutes, and then we will look at some of the more advanced features. So let's go to our schedules page. In line with our focus on a cleaner and more usable interactive experience, you'll notice that things are just a little cleaner, that they fit just a little better on the screen. You'll notice that things like individual buttons that aren't always in use, right, become different behavior, right? So this show inactive, when it's not checked is white, when it's checked is blue. When filters are active, this reset filters changes to red. Again, making things just a little cleaner, a little more obvious. So that's a big part of our philosophy, is doing things like that. We can also look here at creating a new schedule. So I will call this schedule demo. We will do this at Phelan's remote location here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And one thing you'll already notice is that we've changed how this looks. So in the past, when you were creating a new location or a new schedule or a new assister, you would see that all of these things, location, assister, organization, were not entirely clear. You would have to start searching, and you would click on one of these examples here, and it would, of course, just display the text. It wouldn't give you any sort of visual feedback that you had one selected or how to get rid of it. And so we thought that that was a nice little thing, a nice touch that we can make to really enhance everyone's experience. The same is true for our assister field. And again, just some cleanup, making these things look extra nice, extra clean, a little more intuitive. So we can create this schedule here. We can start adding a session, new session. Let's put this for Wednesdays, starting today, ending today. We will do 9 o'clock a.m., 5 o'clock p.m., 60 minutes with no break. So that schedule has been created. And if we go to the calendar, you'll notice here that, again, the calendar looks awfully similar to how it did in the past, but we've made a couple of nice improvements that we hope are really well received. So the biggest thing to notice here is we've added this little green button here. In the past, you would have to click on the individual number for the day of the week or the day of the month to add to a calendar. We realized this was confusing for a lot of users, that people were not understanding or using this feature to its fullest potential. So we wanted to add a clear button here that gave us some information. One-off appointment, 10 o'clock a.m. So, right, we simply added here just the one-off appointment using this green button. We think this is a really nice little helper to let people know that they can add to their calendar there. You also notice that if you start hovering over that, it will give you a little information saying that you can add an appointment that way. Again, we've realized these aren't the biggest things, but we wanted to make sure that some of the core features we've been investing in are really well supported by the connector. Another thing that I'm really excited about, we did some improvements here to the tables pages. If you remember from years past, once we rebuilt the connector, this search bar was not exactly clear what it was being used for. So this year we decided to add some helper text here that makes it clear what these search bars do, hoping that assisters will be able to better understand and better use the connector for search, for finding consumers, for finding schedules, for finding assisters. Again, part of our commitment to making this a more user-friendly and better experience for all. So I think the other thing to show off here, and then we'll pause, we'll talk about next steps, we'll pause for questions, and then we'll look at some of these features here in a little more depth, is the Spanish language widget. So we've put this up here. Again, instructions will be coming on Friday. None of this is actually live yet. We are using a testing version that we've put up on our website. But you'll see here that we've made a Spanish language widget. The other thing to note about the Spanish language widget, appointments that come through the Spanish language widget, or if you're booking an appointment and Market Consumer's preferred language is Spanish, they will be receiving email and text notifications in Spanish this year. Really, again, trying to make this a more inclusive, more equitable, and better experience for everyone, especially our friends in highly Spanish-speaking states. So again, this works as similar as we've all seen it before, right? We can search, and the core of it still obviously comes back in English, but the buttons, the indicators, everything is coming back in Spanish. We can book appointments. Right, and it works exactly the same as it has in years past. So we think this is, again, a really nice feature. We're really excited about this. We really think that offering Spanish language enrollment is going to be a huge part of this year, and we're really excited to support it. So I am going to go back to our presentation here. I want to cover next steps and then we'll stop for questions. So when is this going to happen? What do I need to do? What's the rundown here? We're going to put the new connector live sometime after 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, October 16th. So this Friday. We will send an email out to the entire connector email list when the connector goes down, which it may do for a couple of minutes, and when it goes back up, letting everyone know that these changes are live. No action is necessary by users this year, as was the case last year. All of your data, all of your schedules, all of your availability, everything will be exactly the same as it has been. We're really, you don't need to reset your password or anything. Everything will be exactly the same. The only thing that you'll need to know is just that there might be a momentary blip outage on Friday evening. Again, no action is needed by users. We will spend the rest of the weekend running through everything, doing a final pass to make sure that everything is clean, that everything is ready to go, that there's no issues. But if you go about your week next week and you start seeing issues, or there are things that you're concerned about, feel free to shoot us a line. Connect support at younginvincibles.org is the email address to get a hold of us. And we would be happy to look at and help troubleshoot these issues. So I want to pause here. I've been talking for a while. I want to see if there's any questions. You can type them in the chat box. You can also use the raise your hand feature. And I will be happy to unmute you and you can ask your question verbally. Someone asked about finding the PowerPoint and recording of this. That information will be sent out this afternoon or early tomorrow at the latest. So that you all have a copy of these slides. You'll have a copy of this video available for you all to look at and review. Anyone else have any questions? Um, well, someone asked about the Spanish website. Uh, we've got a couple of questions here. Does the Spanish language widget need to be added as a separate edition on sites that have the tool? Will the website show two tools? Yes, you will need to add the Spanish language version separately. Again, instructions will be coming about this later this week as we finalize everything. But we thought about having it be the same, but we realized that many places may be having their own Spanish language content pages where they might want to have more context for Spanish speakers or direct them separately. So that's the short answer there. It's super easy. It's just as easy as setting up the English one as well. Someone asked about language of the consumer and confirmation messages and in the calendar sync. We are looking into this right now. The answer is not immediately, but likely before open enrollment, yes. Another question, can we delete appointments on the calendar as well as add? Yes, we will look at that here in a little bit. While people are asking additional questions they may have, I want to give a special shout out to a number of different connector users across the entire country. Across the entire country here. We have gotten tremendous feedback during the pandemic, before the pandemic, in the early stages, and even well going back several years ago, with feedback and advice on the struggles people have had with the connector, their issues, their frustrations, and we've been hoping this year to really start digging down through that list and making investments there as well. So we thank you all for your feedback. Please keep these lines of communication open. Unfortunately, I don't think there's room this year for us to be making new features that we haven't talked about already or aren't going live on Friday. But if you encounter something, if there are things that you would like to see in future versions, please let us know. We've got another question here about Zoom appointments instead of phone. There is not a built-in way to handle like any sort of Zoom integration right now. That is something that we are considering for 2021, depending on how things play out. But if you would like to do appointments via Zoom or WebEx or any sort of video conferencing solution, you can put that in the location information, and we can look at that in a bit as well. How sort of our vision for doing that would look like. But there's not a like truly native way to say send a Zoom appointment to someone through the connector. Someone asked about, is Zoom safe to use for enrollment assistance? That is a question that you should talk about with your manager and your team. I don't work for Zoom, obviously. We use it for meetings and stuff internally. And I know that Zoom has a number of certifications and compliance regimes for privacy. But ultimately, that's not a decision that I can make for you. I can say that there are organizations who are using Zoom or similar software, and I would be happy to connect anyone who reaches out privately to me with groups who have gone down that avenue. But again, that's more of a personal question about your level of comfort with Zoom, the risks you all are willing to take, and what your organization feels is appropriate. I'm going to give it another minute or two here for people to finish asking their questions. You know, we talked about, you know, 2021 and some things we've got. Again, we are very open. I think mostly our approach is to wait and see at this moment in terms of what the next years hold for the connector. It is certainly our intent to keep this running for as long as it remains a essential tool for the enrollment community. But I think in terms of what our plans are for OE9 and beyond, we're really taking a step back and waiting to see what the enrollment landscape looks like. You know, how the pandemic shakes out. Obviously, if COVID-19 remains an issue going into 2021, you know, the world will just be a different place than if it doesn't. Similarly, there might be, you know, who knows, depending on the outcome of the election, what else might happen. So we are really much taking a wait and see. But again, if you have thoughts generically, specifically, if there are things you've been looking for, if there are things you'd like to see, feel free to shoot us a note, connectorsupport@younginvincibles.org. And that's the best way to get a hold of us. We'd be happy to chat with you about your needs. And again, that's the best way to get things added for the future. I'm not seeing any other questions here. So let's move on to the second half of our agenda here, which is our Connector 201 training. This is, you know, we normally do and we'll be doing starting next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at this time, what we call our Connector 101 trainings, the basics of the connector, how to use the connector, those types of things. We've heard some requests this year for people that wanted refreshers on some of the new features, some of the more advanced features. And so I just wanted to take some time here and go through what we have available and what we're doing, and some things that you all may find useful. Let me share my screen here and go back to the home screen. So first thing to note, we're going to be updating this whole sidebar. It's going to be largely the same, but with some new features and some new imaging. We figured it was time to give that an update. We'll also be adding this video and others to the YouTube channel, as well as some specific trainings as well in the coming weeks. So that's the first thing I would say. We really want to encourage people this year to take a look at the connector user guide. As you'll see here, this is almost 50 pages of materials covering everything from widgets to adding users to permissions to schedules, to how to sync your calendar with your connector calendar with your personal calendar, some support best practices, some really good stuff. And so we'd strongly recommend that people take a look at this. This is where our best guidance will always live. You know, it's something that we've really put a lot of work into. These resources below are different organizations or samplings of this. So for instance, this how to use a widget here includes both basics on the widget, how to use it, information on embedding the widget, as well as something that we call RSVP links, which we'll get back to in a little bit. Just as an example, this is sort of a way to thematically organize things. You know, maybe this is useful for you all, maybe it's not, but we think it's a really great tool to help make the connector a little more intuitive for you all. There are some things that I know people have mentioned that I want to talk about here. And so I think we're just going to go through in the order that I am aware of them. So the first thing I want to give a refresher on here is the calendar sync. This is something we introduced last year that we want to make sure that people are aware of and how to use. What people may not realize is that there are a number of different calendars in the connector that you can use and sync with your calendar, to sync with your personal calendar. So the assisters page under organizations has a calendar. The locations page under organizations has a calendar. And of course, each individual schedule has a calendar. Our recommendation, generally speaking, is that assisters are going to want to have their individual calendar, so the one under assisters, synced with their personal calendar, and that site managers or coordinators may want to have either multiple calendars synced if they're curious, or perhaps just like a main location if they are, say, managing the virtual enrollment location. From this calendar view here, when this loads up, right, we see this as we've seen in years past. You can hide the different schedules. You can change the view based on different days of the week. You can add by clicking on those days. You can also use the month, just select any month of this year if you wanted to fast forward or backtrack to a particular point in time to better view your calendar. But we really wanted to see here is this calendar embed. So there's this link here that says iCal feed link. This is a iCal format or iCalendar extension, which is used by basically every major calendar application: Google, Apple, Microsoft. Basically, you name it, it is supported. And we have instructions, I think, for all the major ones in our user guide. But pretty simple here. You click that link, so you can click the copy link. You can also double click it and copy. And I'm going to show you all on Google Calendar since that's what I use. On Google, you'd click this other calendar button and you'd come down to from URL. You'd put this calendar in here in that URL, add the calendar. And if you go back, you'll see that we have information in this calendar, right? So this appointment is at 9 a.m., the name of the consumer with the name of the assister, the time and time, information on the location, the consumer's phone number, and a link back to the connector, right? So that way, you know, you can just pop in and out relying on your personal calendar and then going back. This is also a great time. I realized I left something off of that list, things we've been working on. This is something that I know people have been asking for almost 2 years now. In the old connector under Enroll America, there was a feature where you could clone an appointment, meaning that you could take a consumer's information and you could copy it essentially to a new appointment. So you're working with a consumer, it's the end of their appointment, you've gotten through the eligibility and they need to pick out a plan. But you've got an appointment right after this, or they have to run. So you want to reschedule them. And it's time consuming, obviously, to go in and re-enter the same person's information. From this appointment, you can click the Clone Appointment button, and you will see that all that consumer's information is already filled in. All you need to do now is use the Find an Appointment, the backend widget, and you can pick an appointment time, and you can create an appointment. So that's really nifty as well. And that's something new that we've brought back that I know a couple people who it looks like at least one is on this call have been asking us for and pestering us for a while. So I think that's really nice as well. Another thing that's new this year that's a little more advanced and isn't sort of necessarily a part of the core connector, but is super useful, is this button here for a good example of positive impact on a consumer. In the past, this was built into the connector. It was clunky. It wasn't super user intuitive. YIA is using a new project that we have called our Story Hub this year to collect and share stories on the ACA with our partners, with you all as sisters, and with sort of the broader audience. We know the importance of in-person assistance. We know the importance of personal stories, and we wanted to make sure that that would work. So there appears to be some hiccup here, but this will load out into it will look something like this. This is probably the last thing that we're working on. Apparently we're having some technical difficulties with that today. Give me a second here. I've been working on both of these a lot today. Okay, so it looks like we won't be able to preview that today, but we will send instructions on that separately. Again, we've been working on some final details of both of these projects here before open enrollment, and it looks like we just caught us in a bit of a maintenance period. But that's going to be a really nice way to sort of collect and share stories with consumers throughout open enrollment and beyond. So we've looked at cloning an appointment. We can go back to schedules here. Someone asked about supporting Zoom and sort of recommendations for remote appointments. So I want to go back here just because I am a stickler. You'll see here on the connector, on both connectors, at the bottom of this user manual resources is virtual or remote appointments. Right, and this concludes our best guidance here on how to handle things. Making sure that it's clear that it's virtual or phone, putting information that you know, it's available by request to use Zoom or video conferencing, or that you will email them a link separately, and some general guidance here on how to use it. But just to take a look here at how I would do it, since someone had asked, we added a new schedule, virtual enrollment, Phelan's. Oh, we need to go to locations. We want to do a location. Phelan's demo enrollment. Young Principals. Again, the nice new user feedback here. If you wanted to get rid of it, you can click the red X. Address. This is a virtual appointment. Your assister will send you a Zoom link, your appointment beforehand. Minneapolis, amen. So this is our best recommendation, is that you make it clear. I'll do this with all caps to make it nicer. Virtual only. Right, making it clear in the name of the location that you're not doing in-person assistance anymore. If you're moving to Zoom or phone, putting information using the address lines as the instructions on how it will be accessed. And then putting in here the city, state, and zip code as if it was a normal location. So I put in my local information here in Minnesota. You would do it wherever yours was. And the reason we do this is quite simply that it's the only way to get it to work with the widget and to get it work with our searching for appointments. The connector was obviously built in mind with finding assistance within a certain radius of a consumer to connect them to local help. And while we realize that things have gone more remote, more virtual, even before COVID, geography is still the important thing. And if we save this and look at it, we'll see here that it still shows up on a map. And so it can still therefore be searched with a reference point. So that's a really crucial thing here, is just making sure that you have the city, state, and zip code information nice and handy and available for you all to use. So that's really something nice. So that's our recommendations for how to do virtual assistance. Someone also asked about deleting from a schedule. So we can go back to our schedules here. Let's look at this one. Let's go to next month. Cool. So, right, we are looking at our calendar here. And we say that a appointment is no longer necessary, right? I can't use this 8 a.m. slot on the 3rd. I have a couple of options here. The first is I can click deactivate, and that just grays it out. So you'll see here, right, I still have this add appointment button, and I'm clicking on it. I'm clicking on it a bunch, but nothing happens. So deactivating is sort of holding that aside. So it doesn't necessarily get rid of that time slot, but it makes it unavailable and it won't show up on the widget. If you wanted to bring it back, you can reactivate it and it goes back. But maybe you have a conflict. Maybe 8 a.m. on this one particular Tuesday isn't good for some personal reason. You can actually just click this delete button here and it frees it up and releases that or gets rid of that spot, right? So the rest of this is still good, but this 8 a.m. And then of course, if we for some reason needed to bring it back, extra session, 8 o'clock a.m., 9 o'clock a.m., add a session. Right, and now it's back. Right, so now it's back here, and you can change the views to week, to a specific day. Although that looks like it's having some issues today. Right, so you can do that and you can choose month. So I could go to December as opposed to clicking next month and it will go there as well. So that's that on schedules and embedding them and how to set them up for remote assistance. Questions on any of that? Cool. So another thing we added last year, if you've ever gone to the reports tab, you'll notice that there are some new reports included here. We have the standard appointment detail report. We also have an upcoming 48-hour, I don't think I have one, so I should add test. Quickly add an appointment here so that we can use this. Cool, so now that appointment's in there. So let's go to reports and let's look at this upcoming 48 hours appointment. This is really useful for doing quick confirmations or looking at your days ahead. So it shows the next 48 hours of appointments. So we see I have an appointment here. I could download this and it comes out as a simple file that you can use in Excel or something else that will show you in just a second as it opens. Right, so you can pop this out here if you need to do something with it, or if you were doing some other method of confirmation or having someone else confirm appointments, as well as a link back to the original appointment. But it's got their information here, right? You can also edit this appointment right from there. So if I was calling Phelan here and I spoke with him and I was able to confirm the appointment, I can mark it as confirmed. Right, and so now that appointment has been confirmed thanks to our nice upcoming 48-hour appointments report. We also have this unclosed appointment report. It works exactly the same. I'm gonna go back here to make sure I have some in here. It works exactly the same as the appointment detail report. But this is for unclosed appointments. So this can be used by managers who are trying to put on a regular basis or at the end of open enrollment together lists of who and where assistance is needed, or who and where needs to enter their data, close out their appointments, and make sure that they have all the information in so that we can tell a excellent story of our success during this open enrollment and that no consumer gets missed. As you all remember, a closeout appointment has an appointment status that is either canceled, confirmed, or no-showed. And if it's completed, and it comes with a enrollment status. So we will call this marketplace renewal. And if we go back to our unclosed appointments, we can see that we got rid of one of those appointments since it's been closed out now. So you can also download this. Right, really nice way to make sure that people are closing out the appointments that they need to, and that the data gets in on time. Does anyone have a question about reports? Cool. We have one last thing here we want to show, and then we will hopefully get you out the door with a couple of minutes to spare. I am going to go into this here to make sure I do this right. So if we go back to our connector and we look at a location, one thing that we'll notice when editing it is that there is this number here, 125998, in the URL address. This number is a unique ID. It's a unique number assigned to this location, and allows us to know exactly what location you're talking about. So why is this important, you ask? Well, you obviously have the option to use our regular widget, widget.getcoveredamerica.org. You obviously have the option to embed it on your own website, as many places have done. You can also use this as a way to direct people to certain locations, to certain schedules, or to certain locations. Right, so if you have a location set up for all of your virtual appointments, you can obviously tell people to go to the connector and find it. You can also just send them a link with that location number put in here. So this one, 11635, if we look at it, is Keio Health Connection, right? And they've got their information that they will call at the scheduled time to our phone appointment and their schedule. So as opposed to having to go through, right, and do, right, I'm searching here, right, and I want to go to Keio Health Connection, right, I don't have to search, I don't have to find in a, oh, someone is not seeing, so I will fix that. Apologies. It's good that we're doing this now as a warm-up. So what I was sharing before, if we go back to the home screen, or if we go back here, right, this is a just standard location page, right? This is one of the test locations we've put in, and you'll see that it has this unique identifier number here, 125998, right? And that is a number that is unique to it and allows us to do things like this, where we plug that into the connector widget URL. I'll even do it with this one just to show. Oh, it looks like it doesn't have any, that's right. Right, but this location does. Right, so as opposed to having to go through, right, and search and click and then find a time, you can just tell people to go to this specific one. So this is really useful if you're trying to direct people to a specific location think of it as sort of like an RSVP link. You can use this to make sure that people get directly to the location that they're looking to go, or that you're looking to send them to, without having to search and navigate the connector. So with that, that concludes sort of our tour of Connector 201, some new features, some old features, some things to be aware of and to use in your day-to-day work. I wanted to stop here. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to know if there were any questions. Again, you can either type them in the chat box or you can raise your hand and ask them that way. I am not seeing any questions yet, so I'll hang around for a couple of minutes here and let people finish typing up their questions. Thank you all for joining today. We're really excited about the new connector and its launch on Friday evening. Again, if we just go back here, we're going to be going live sometime after 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, October 16th. You don't need to do anything. You just need to stand by, and we'll let you know when everything changes over. But all of your data will be there. All your schedules will be there. Your password will be the same. It'll just be a fresh new look as well. Someone wants to see one more time how to share the calendar to their Outlook calendar. So we will do that. But for the rest of you all, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful day. So you wanted to see the calendar sync again. Let's do this. Let's get rid of this puppy. Let's unsubscribe. So we're just getting rid of this whole thing. All right, so I have my blank calendar here, and I'm just going to do it on Google Calendar. There is also in here, where would it be? Too many tabs. Under syncing your calendar from the homepage of the connector, instructions, right? So it's the same first step, and then there's a page for everything in each one. So Microsoft Calendar will look awfully similar, or Outlook Calendar will look awfully similar, but we'll do this on Google Calendar since I don't have a account with Outlook. So I am going to go here and let's go to Assister. Right, organizations, assisters. We'll go to calendar. Right, and we've got, it looks like one appointment here coming up tomorrow. So we know that there's going to be one and one on the 21st, it looks like. So we can copy this here. Just literally click the copy button and go to our calendar. Other calendars from URL. We just paste that there. We add that calendar and it comes back here and we see the appointment in here, right? And it will show us the information. And that information, including the link, will go back. One thing to note that I've mentioned before, but I don't think I've mentioned today, sometimes it can take a minute for calendars to sync with the connector. And there's unfortunately nothing we can do about that. It's up to your personal calendar provider Google or Outlook or whomever to get and update the information in the calendar. But it should happen within a couple of minutes. So it may not be literally up to the moment up to date, but generally within a couple of minutes, it's pretty dependable on getting this back up to date. So, if you see that you've just entered an appointment and it's not popping up, stay tuned. But it's really that simple. And again, from the homepage of the connector here, under user manual resources, virtual or remote appointments. Oh, no, yep, wrong one, sorry. Under syncing your calendar. Right, there's a step 1 here that everyone will need to do regardless of what system they use. And then there's a set of slides for Google Calendar, for Microsoft Outlook, for Apple Calendar, and a bit of an FAQ. So again, it can take a couple of hours sometimes to see some updates, but generally speaking, things will happen pretty quickly, and it should be within an hour or so. So I'd start there if you're having questions, and if you still have issues, you can feel free to reach out. But now we've hit 2 o'clock Eastern, so I'm going to end this call here. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all so much for your feedback. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you on a future training.